then you're saying that doctrines tend to come because of heretical beliefs. So we saw, sort of heretical beliefs like mentioned it by, especially like John, when he's talking about Antichrist, because they don't believe that Jesus came in the flesh. And Paul obviously mentioned so as well. About the way things people were bringing in, like relation to eating foods, to idols. So obviously they had to come up with a doctrine to counter what people were saying at that time. But then they didn't seem to have to be concerned about one relating to the nature of God and how Jesus is formed into a union with God, etc. like that.
Yeah. And this is because the detailed challenges. Remember, most of what's going on in the New Testament is in the area known as Palestine or Israel. This is not an area like Athens. I was talking to you previously about speculative theology, which is particularly characteristic of the Greek world. So as the followers of Jesus fan out from the Hebrew world into the Greek world, they're preaching the gospel, and they're encountering a response from Greeks, or Greek-thinking people, where they're bringing very complicated understandings to bear and mixing their own pagan views with Christian views. So you get the Gnostics, a good example. Now, Gnosticism seems to predate Christianity, but changes form in its own encounter with different religious ideas. And at the time, in the 2nd century, you've got this complex system of belief which incorporates Jesus. Jesus is one of his emanations from the primary God, the demiurge or whatever. This is not so much the Greek gods. This is beyond the Greek gods. This is a new thing, a whole system of emanations from a primary being, and their influence and their operation in the world. And there's complex ideas about matter and spirit and how they relate. So there's all kinds of weird religious stuff in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd centuries. But in the 1st century, it's not so much a big idea that impacts on Christianity, but St. John is dealing with it in his gospel as well. Those who have said Jesus didn't come in the flesh, they're basically denying the flesh and that Jesus must come purely spiritually. There's the beginning of a problem, which John addresses. But these problems become more serious as the centuries wear on. And so the leaders of the church of subsequent generations have to deal with these things head on. And our understanding, and so when people say, you've got Father, Son and Holy Spirit, but the Spirit is merely an emanation, or the Son is merely an emanation, well, then that's got to be addressed. No, these are real persons. Jesus is a real person who came in the flesh. Oh, well, okay, so he's just a man. No, he's God. No, you can't be a mixture of flesh and God. Oh, so he's just God then. Appears to be a man. And there's a specific heresy which said, for example, Jesus was on the cross. I think it's Docetism. Jesus is on the cross, but he's not really suffering. There's a document, an ancient document, where he's on there and he's looking down at the Romans and the Jews and he's laughing at them.
I think I heard this.
Yeah, because he's not really he's not really in pain, it just appears to be a human body. Well, this is addressed, all this is addressed by saying he's got a fully human nature and he's got divine nature. And they both subsist in Jesus. Jesus is his divine nature, he is his human nature. He's basically the Logos, the divine nature, which attached to himself a human nature at the moment of his conception in Blessed Mother's womb.